This is Keys to the Shop, Founder Friday edition. Today we're talking with Iman Kusumaputra and Putri Yulandari of Kopikalyan. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DiFurio. I'm your host for the show, and I'm really excited to have you along today for Founder Friday in the month of February as we travel to Jakarta, Indonesia, and talk with Iman and Putri, who are co-founders of Kopikalyan. It's really going to be a great conversation. Now, if you have not subscribed to Keys to the Shop, I would really encourage you to take the time to just hit the button where it says subscribe, wherever you're listening to this show. That way you'll always be updated with new episodes as they come out. And also, if you have the opportunity to share these shows and this show in general with a friend, that would be awesome too. Get the word out about Keys to the Shop. Follow us on Instagram at Keys to the Shop. And if you really want to go the extra mile, rate and review this show. Give us a 5-star rating over on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support of the show over the years. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Now, Keys to the Shop, on top of doing this podcast, also offers consulting and coaching for you and your coffee business. Whether you're just starting out as a coffee entrepreneur who needs guidance along the way from concept to launch, Keys to the Shop Consulting can really help you there, as well as those of you who already have a coffee business, but you want to level up your quality, your operations, your management. You just got some special projects, or you're scaling your business and you need a trusted advisor to help you along the way. Keys to the Shop can help you there too. I would love to talk with you about your particular situation and how I might be able to help. Just email me, chris@keystotheshop.com, and we can set up a free discovery call. Again, that email for Keys to the Shop Consulting, chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, today's episode of Keys to the Shop is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer, popping up all over the world in coffee bars that want to level up their batch brew coffee experience and more. The Ground Control Cyclops Brewer employs SCA award-winning technology to unlock the potential of your coffee like no technology has done before for batch brew coffee, allowing you to control a range of flavors that you couldn't get from traditional batch brewers. It not only levels up batch brewing, it also increases your bar's efficiency and versatility because it makes tea, batched iced lattes, and batched cold brew, all of this out of an amazing looking and functioning machine. So check them out over at groundcontrol.coffee for more information. You can find out if there's a cafe near you that has a Ground Control to see it in action. If you're looking to level up your quality, your versatility, and efficiency behind the bar and bring your customers a truly great coffee experience, then I highly recommend getting a Ground Control Cyclops Brewer for your cafe. Again, to find out more, go visit them over at groundcontrol.coffee. Today's episode is also brought to you by Pacific's Barista Series, the line of plant-based performance beverages that is the standard for excellence for professional baristas and cafes across the globe who really care about offering their customers the best plant-based beverage experience. The whole line of Barista Series beverages truly will perform on the bar because they've been designed with the professional barista in mind and with a ton of feedback from professional baristas before it even hits the shelf. So you have the confidence knowing that it stands up to the heat from steaming, produces awesome texture for latte art, and keeps the balance of the beverage focused on coffee, and just delivers an incredible experience for your customers. Go visit them over at pacificfoodservice.com to find out more and get it in your store. Try it for yourself. If you're looking to serve your customers the best plant-based beverages, then I think you should be using the Barista Series from Pacific. Okay, everybody. Well, I'm excited to have you along today as we get to hear the story of the founding, development, running of Kopikalyan in Jakarta, Indonesia. To do that, we're going to be talking with two of the co-founders of the company, Iman Kusumaputra and Putri Yulandari. Iman and Putri are two of 6 friends who co-founded Kopikalyan. Both studied in Melbourne, Australia, which is one of the best cities in the world to enjoy coffee. And the idea to start a coffee shop business happened over casual conversation in 2016. And today, Kopikalyan has 4 outlets in total. 3 of them are in Jakarta and 1 is in Tokyo, Japan. Iman is an ex-banker who turned into a full-time entrepreneur due to his interest in the food and beverage industry. Upon entering the coffee industry, he got interested in enhancing the synergy between upstream and downstream. In particular, how coffee shops could directly support a better life for farming families of Indonesia through fair prices. Now, Putri is an architect who previously worked on many hospitality projects. And what interests her the most about designing a coffee shop is the limitless possibility of always creating something different. In terms of customers' experience as well as branding identity, Putri believes that visuals are an important aspect of showcasing great coffee, and that a coffee shop should be representing and spotlighting the coffee as well as the people behind that cup. And as we talk with Iman and Putri today, I think you're going to find to a great degree their experiences and backgrounds being expressed through the development of Kopikalyan and what they do with beverage innovation, how they built their cafes, and how they foster those relationships with farmers, being that they roast exclusively Indonesian coffee across all of their cafes. And as they look to responsibly scale their business, they are creating those better relationships for the farming families of Indonesia. They have a lot of great things to share about their own entrepreneurial journey. So I hope that you really enjoyed this conversation. It was a real treat to talk to both Iman and Putri. And you'll hear in this show, we conducted this interview while they were going through a thunderstorm over there. And I like to think that the thunder was there because they were laying down some really awesome insights and the weather was just agreeing with it. So without anything else from me, let's get right to it. Here now is the Founder Friday interview with two of the co-founders of Kopikalyan, Iman Kusumaputra and Putri Yulandari. Well, Putri, Iman, welcome to Keys to the Shop. I'm really excited to talk about your business and what you've been up to over there in Indonesia. How are you today?
We're good. We're good. Thanks for having us, Chris.
It's an honor. So I guess we have a lot to talk about here. There is, of course, the history of yourselves and you're getting into coffee, and I wonder if it's connected directly with your business. So let's start there. Like, how did you get into this particular business, and was this your first entry into coffee, or did you have careers in coffee before?
Well, we came to love coffee basically during our time in college in Melbourne, in Australia, basically right about the time when the third wave coffee was growing. So we were actually exposed to really good coffee every day. If you know Melbourne, even the train station coffee tastes good.
Yeah.
So that's how it was like. So we were exposed to that on a daily basis. After moving back to Jakarta, I guess it was something that we really missed. We didn't have that luxury that we did in Melbourne. And we thought that, coming from a country that produces a lot of coffee, we just think that it should be easy. So I think that's kind of like where we saw that opportunity. On top of that, I think Indonesia, particularly Jakarta, was lacking a third space. So basically a place where people could hang out and work. It was really scarce here in Jakarta back then. And in Jakarta, in Indonesia, specialty coffee was just starting. So there were a few specialty coffee shops in Jakarta, but not really as many as there are today. So
and not as popular as today. So
not as popular, exactly. So everyone here, mostly they were really like Starbucks centric, so to speak. And the rest of the coffee drinkers were instant coffee consumers, people that brew coffee at home, not like it is today. So that's basically kind of initiated us to start the coffee business. And Putri here is an architect, and I worked in a bank. I think deep inside we were sort of kind of tired of our daily routine too. So we needed an exciting project, and we saw that in this coffee shop business. And we also have another partner that has a marketing background. So we figured that with our combination, it sort of made sense that we started a coffee business. Back then, of course, we didn't do nothing about the coffee business. Yes, we loved coffee. We loved to drink coffee, but we didn't know how to operate a coffee business. We didn't know how to operate an espresso machine. So
and zero knowledge about specialty coffee as well. Like
yeah.
we didn't know where the grade came from, and who are the Q graders and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was all pretty new to you because
Yeah.
you had just been introduced to it in Melbourne, right? And
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Melbourne is basically a mecca for coffee shops. You go to every corner, look around, everywhere next to you, there's a coffee shop, even if it was just a small shop. But they serve really good coffee. So we just wanted to have that. And back then, Puchi and I was still doing our main thing too. Puchi was still designing. She was still doing residential and commercial spaces, and I was still working as a back then. I quit the bank, and then I started into consulting. But over time, as our business grew, I think we took a sidestep, and then really focused on Kopikalyan.
Well, that's really interesting because you go to a place where, I think a lot of people might think in a producing country, you've got all that coffee there. People are drinking instant coffee. There's more of the Starbucks style there. And remind me what year this was when, all of that was just like the status quo.
It was mid 2010. Yeah, I don't know, 2015.
And when did you launch your
2016?
Yeah, when did you launch your business?
We launched it in 2016.
Wow. And so now you say the market is a little bit different, all right? And so you were one of the first movers around there. And did you start roasting, or did you start with a cafe, or both? I mean, Putri, you're an architect, so this seems like a natural idea to, let's start with designing a cafe, but I'm just curious how you took your first steps.
Well, for us, it was the cafe first. We set up the roasting after our third shop, which was in 2018. Regarding the designing a space, I guess in our first store, it was we had really limited resources. Like our initial investment was really not much, so we had to deal with keep everything in budget. So that's kind of how we start designing the cafe. The property was really old house. It's a half-ruined building, basically.
It's haunted.
Yeah. But the location is superb. Like, it's located in like the hype area of South Jakarta, where all the hip cafes and restaurants are. So we thought, oh, this is such a good opportunity if we can transform this old building into a good establishment. The renovation was done very minimally. We kept some of the ruined walls in our cafes, which you can still see up until today. I think that has put like some context into it and creates a charm on it. So the concept is very industrial, really good lightings, and we have 2 courtyards in the building. So we kind of put that as a center stage of our cafes. Fortunately, it worked.
Good. I was wanting to kind of dig into that a little bit more about, you said fortunately it worked, and that kind of implies what a lot of entrepreneurs go through, which is, will it work? There's a difference, obviously, between where you were influenced through the cafes of Melbourne versus getting some property and starting your own expression of coffee that you want to bring to other people, and then asking yourself, will it work? And then trying to overcome challenges all along the way, not including your own sort of entry into ownership of a coffee bar. So I'm curious if we could dig deeper into that. What kind of challenges did you find yourself dealing with that were maybe a little bit surprising on both the development of the business itself, maybe concept or it could be the building or anything like that, and also just the adjustment that you needed to make, both of you needed to make mentally and to just prepare yourselves for the journey ahead?
I guess there were a lot of challenges that we faced in the beginning. As I said before, we were sort of blind going into the coffee business. Um, the first question that we needed to ask ourselves, okay, what kind of coffee are we gonna sell? Figuring out the perfect blend, I guess, was one of the most challenging parts. Previously, Indonesia was very familiar with traditional type of enjoying coffee, which is a darker kind of version,
Robusta mostly.
robusta, and it was that kind of coffee. So that was first thing that we had to figure out, which is what are we gonna sell? And there were already a few specialty coffee shops in the neighborhood, and we had to figure out our identity too, not just in terms of the coffee, but also in terms of the character that we wanted to bring out. We also had a challenge in terms of I think investment. As Pucci already mentioned, we were very limited on investment, but at the same time, we wanted the good stuff, like we wanted the good machine, like we wanted to have a La Marzocco, and we wanted to have a Malconic, and we had to really grind and think of ways how we can tighten the budget and the other aspects just to compensate for what we're spending on the coffee equipment, which at that time we thought was really important to our business. That was proven a good decision on that side. We kept on reminding Pucci, okay, renovation has to be done minimally. So that sort of half ruined building, industrial ruined walls, I think was one of the ways that Pucci really transformed a tight budget into a creative outcome.
Yeah.
I guess.
The raw walls got us La Marzocco,
Mhm.
so to speak.
Were you
And-
acting as the GC, Putri, as the general contractor?
Yes. We had a team of construction builders at that time, a small team, and we just had to work with what we had. I didn't even produce drawings at that time because the building, the house is as I said, half ruined, and we have to went along with the process, the construction process. Like I didn't really know like which walls is structurally sound and which is not. We had to just went along with it.
Of course, there were other challenges, like recruiting, training, marketing. It was all very new to us, but and it really showed. It just that those challenges in the beginning really made it sweeter as our cafe grew and became more popular, became more hype. So it really added confidence to us. All the challenges that we had to go through, and any business have to go through for that matter. I think it's just part of it. And at the beginning, I think the good thing about it is that all of us partners, we really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So even though it was challenging, even though it was hard, we really had fun.
Yeah, enjoying the process along the way and not just cursing it until it was finished.
Yeah.
So back to the idea of, having to make these decisions and being new, and you're assessing what kind of coffee you want to have and what kind of identity you want to have. You have to make hiring decisions. Every point along the way, you're going to have to make decisions according to some kind of internal metric. Even though you're new, you need a measuring stick to judge whether or not you're going to hire a person or you're going to use a coffee. What your brand is going to be like. Describe how that decision-making process looked, and was it directly comparing against what you had seen in other places? Was it factoring in things that you thought was really needed in Jakarta? Mix of both?
Regarding hiring, we think that attitude is number one. Someone who's happy to serve customers and give them great experience rather than, just showing off their skills is very important. So we started off by looking for enthusiastic people. I think we recruited around 8 to 10 people in the very beginning, and very few of them had barista background at that time. We work with a good friend of ours, Arif Saib, who's probably one of the first specialty coffee roasters in Jakarta. We got Arif to train us as well as the staff. As we went along, we were introduced to more people, and right now recruitment is not as hard as it used to be, because people already know us and they know what our values are, and it's getting easier to find people with a like-minded background.
Yeah, in the beginning, I would say it was probably 90% gut feeling, 10% what we were exposed to and what we think is needed. But as time grew, and we kind of the first thing we did, I think we talked to a lot of people, and that really helped us set kind of the standard or the measuring stick, as you said, on how to or what should be, or what is good. Yeah, I think it's a process. I mean, talking about the beginning and talking about now, I think it's totally different. I think, yes, we still use our gut feeling, our instincts in decision making, but I think it's more rounded and processed.
One could talk about gut feelings as being like, oh, I don't know, you got to have a little bit more of an academic process. But then I'm sure, especially as a consultant yourself in the financial world, you could probably see where making purely analytical decisions that have nothing to do with, values, context, or no gut in them at all could produce equally bad decisions.
Absolutely. I think that's when you start a business, I think what's important, especially if you have partners, is really to, unite the values first. Everyone has their own values. We just try to match it first in the beginning. I think that's why we used a lot of gut feeling. Scientific process comes later, but yeah, a combination is needed.
Now, your values, and you say now people know who you are, they know what your values are. Now, you could have started this, and you could have just been a flash in the pan. You could have come in and started this, another entrepreneur who really wants to start something cool that they saw when they were in college, right? And it's not guaranteed that you're going to be successful, but over the last 6 years, you've developed a reputation, apparently, for following through with what you intended to do. So from the beginning, I would be curious to know what your values are, and also how you planned on and executed consistency that you've developed over these years that has given you this reputation that sometimes other coffee bars don't have because they don't have the same consistency.
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest continuing challenge that we have as business owners, especially in the coffee business, where you have newcomers every day. Especially in a city like Jakarta, you see new coffee shops popping up every day. And if you visit Jakarta now, you can see a coffee shop for every, 50 meters? Yeah. And competition is one of the important factors on how we have to keep the consistency of our quality. Apart from keeping the quality consistency, we put a focus on developing our products as well. So that's one of the ways of having to serve consistently. We have a strong research and development team, who's working on new products and new projects all the time. Seasonal products, we use, locally sourced ingredients to attract new customers as well as loyal customers to come back to our cafes. Yeah, and also being close with our staffs is really important as well in keeping the consistency, reminding them of what the values are and reminding them why they're here to serve and to give the best experience a customer can have.
Basically, from the beginning, one of the important things for us is humility. I think for us, being new to the coffee business and being new to any business in particular, I think humility was one that really carried us through, because as I said before, we went to a lot of people, we asked around a lot, we wanted to learn. So that was really important to us. And to this day, I think that's one of the things that we really emphasize and share with our team, that we have to keep grounded, we have to keep humble, and we have to keep learning. And that kind of transfers to the customers. That's for one. Secondly, we also believed in Indonesian coffee. I think that's one of the clear values from the beginning. Sorry, just let that one pass.
If listeners are curious, and I'll probably tell people at the outset of this interview, all of this is the thunder that we're hearing, and it's fantastic. I think it's very appropriate. It's a great conversation so far. So I think the skies are agreeing with your points.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, in Indonesia, just to add to that point, Indonesia, a lot of Indonesians believe that rain is a blessing. So let's just hope our podcast today is blessed.
Excellent.
Anyways, moving on. I think the second thing that we really thought was important was Indonesian beans, using Indonesian beans. I think that's one thing that we were really strong from the beginning. We're going to source the beans from Indonesia. We're a coffee producing country. We have a variety of origins within Indonesia, and I think we can. That's one thing that we really have to raise and provide a platform for. And then we also believe in innovation, as Putri already mentioned. That's also another strong point that we believe we possess, because we are consistently in doing it. It's innovation, not just in products, but also in design, and also in creativity and communication. And what we're trying to do more is innovation, more in the roastery. So those three, I think, are just some of the strong values that we really hold from the beginning. Other than that, relationship we think is very important, not just with our employees, but also with the farmers, with the customers. Without the relationship that we really emphasize on, I don't think we could be this successful.
Yeah. Oh, those are great values. I enjoy the entering into the market with humility and the focus on being a champion for Indonesian coffee. And I would like to I think maybe later ask a little bit more about the innovation aspect of it. It sounds like as a value. The question I guess is unto what, and what's the motivation to be innovative, or the result. And a lot of it seems like you really get to stand out in the market and be a leader. But what I really want to ask about at this juncture is the idea of the relationships with farmers that you're just talking about, being connected to the idea of championing Indonesian coffee. Now, you were using somebody else's roasted product for a while, but eventually you started roasting your own, correct?
Yeah.
Now, when did that happen, and how? I guess all the questions. Why did you decide to move to roasting your own coffee, and how did that process come about?
With 3 outlets in 2018, we thought it's probably time for us to set up a roasting. And that decision was based on, first, the amount of beans that we need for our own outlets. It's economically more efficient to roast our own beans. So we went to study about roasting. One of our key staff, Yusuf, got to learn roasting from numerous roasters in Jakarta. So we set up a roastery in 2018. The transition was a challenge at first. because with different batch of beans, we had to deal with the different consistency in the beans. So that was one of the challenge that we had to face during at least the first 6 months. As we went along, I guess we connected with more people, we learned from more sources, and we built relationships with the farmers. We got feedback from them. It got easier, I guess. And we enjoyed the process. One of the benefits for being here in a coffee producing country is that we get to build relationships with producers and processors. And that has given us a lot of resources in terms of knowledge, and we get to convey that to our customers. So it's a good transition now that we serve our own roasted beans. We get to tell more stories about it.
Indonesia has a lot of origins within the country. We're the world's largest archipelago. We have a lot of volcanoes here. So we have a lot of distinct flavors coming out of the country. And so we wanted to explore that. And we thought that the only way that we could explore was to have a roastery. I think in particular, we also wanted to build relationship with the upstream side of the business. We knew that if we wanted to grow with the coffee shops, we had to build a relationship with the upstream, with the farmers, with the processors. And this was also one thing that we were really concerned with, and we wanted to help out. As you know, for one particular farm, probably in Indonesia, there would be 200 to 300 families involved, and from pickers, sorters, the logistics and processing workers, etc. A lot of the economic well-being of these families really rely on the coffee to support their daily needs. A lot of these families or a lot of these workers, they earn less than $1, even 50 cents per kilo, which we thought was something that really had to be improved and changed in Indonesia. So from the beginning, we wanted to help change this. And with having a roastery, I think it could help us fill our role to buy direct, to find the most transparent, to buy at a fair price. And that's what we keep on trying to do. And as Putri said, also, we've tried to raise the perspective of the farmers. In fact, just last year, we did a little docuseries, and it was regarding 2 regions within Indonesia. We were able to storytell and give the perspective of these different regions and why they grew coffee, even though they grew coffee for different reasons, one for their social well-being and another one for the environmental sustainability. They all lived off coffee. And I think that's what we also try to do, and what we were able to do by having a roaster.
With the capacity of your 3 shops, and that you're using that power of the consumption of those shops to, you're focusing it in these relationships so that that all of your buying power is being focused to change something on the upstream end of things. Is this common for coffee shops similar to yours in the area to source locally? Or was this something pretty different, or is it still something pretty different?
I would say probably about 30 to 40% of them source their own beans and roast their own beans, which I think is really positive for the ecosystem and for the coffee industry in Indonesia. Some of the cafes, they source their beans from abroad too. And so I guess we distinguish ourselves again with innovation. We do a lot of collaborations in our roastery. We let co-roasting happen in our roastery as well. So we have this project. It's called Project Sangrai. Basically, what we do in Project Sangrai is we collaborate with coffee icons in Indonesia, be it baristas, roasters, or even processors to create roasted beans that they like. I guess that's one of the ways to showcase Indonesian beans in our roastery.
I imagine, and this is just, an outsider's perspective based on the kind of, trends that we have going on in specialty coffee today. If you're sourcing coffee locally, it may not be true that you're always paying a good price for it, that there could be opportunity to just take it for granted that it's there. And, in another country, maybe the lore about the bean and the story of the bean it's so unique to that country. So it's not their culture, it's another culture. So it feels like you can tell that story a little, and it fascinates a little bit more. And so you can potentially charge more. So I guess even though there's this group of people who are sourcing Indonesian coffee and locally, is it always true that it's sourced well, and that the relationships are always great simply because you're buying local? Does that equal automatically good, or is there a spectrum there?
I would say there's a spectrum there, but most of the time the common practice here is that you buy from the middleman, be it a distributor or like a coffee supplier.
True.
That was more common back in 2010 to late 2010s, but nowadays people are more aware about where they buy their beans from, and with social media, I guess it's easier to trace your coffee beans than before. Farmers and producers, they have Instagram accounts where they showcase their beans. It's easier now for us to trace them from the internet. So I guess nowadays cafes and roasters, they tend to want to buy directly rather than from the middleman, which is a good trend. We're heading towards a positive kind of trend, which is really good.
And I think the market today is more curious. It's a younger market. It's a more curious market. So sourcing beans from Indonesia, I think it's our role as coffee shops to really expose the processing method, the processors, farm, because people want to know. It's just up to us how we share it with them. And for the business, for the ecosystem, especially overseas, I think that's also one of our dream, that one day we could be a big coffee chain from a coffee producing country, so that we could really tell the stories of Indonesian coffee beans overseas.
I enjoy hearing about that kind of a trend in a producing country, and the kind of ecosystem that's there with coffee shops sourcing locally. I feel like that's really what the industry needs right now. And you're scaling the business is also a huge factor in that. And so you have the 3 stores in Jakarta and now 1 in Japan. So you're kind of taking that step into the overseas market, if you will. And the question I have is about expansion and the export of your culture and values and standards. It starts locally, like when you go from 1 store to 2 to 3. Those are the moments where you start to get tested in terms of how you could delegate and how you can create systems to make sure that you're going to, deliver. I'm curious about that for the first 3 stores, and then about the opportunity that you've taken to open in Japan and what you learned from your expansion in Jakarta that helps you accomplish this 4th store.
Yeah, I mean, expanding another shop is always a new challenge. It's challenging, but at the same time, exciting. At least that's how we find it. The first one, the second one, the third one, it's sort of for us addicting. Yeah. Um, yeah, there are a lot of challenges. And straight off, I think what we did was we strengthened our back end, our back office, and we tried to do that really quickly as we expanded. Operations is probably the biggest challenge, control and monitoring, keeping everything consistent in our shops and having a specific standard that we wanted, I think was a big challenge. So straight off, we knew that the key was recruitment, training, and instilling a good standard operating procedures. We knew that these three could really make the controlling so much easier, and it did. It really helped us in opening three. And actually, besides Kopikalyan, we also have two other brands, which we also have three locations for that brand. So it really helped us expand locally, but wouldn't have been easy if we didn't really invested time and effort in recruitment, training, and procedures. I think the most challenging, especially as the team gets bigger, you have a bigger team, is values and culture. Yes, we have our values from the beginning, but again, as the team goes bigger, it's something that you really have to keep on reminding yourself. Okay, we have to really straighten our lines and keep everything within our circle of values and culture.
At the size you are right now, I mean, what do you think is the most important of the systems that you have, or the rhythms that you've developed that keeps people being consistent? I mean, I know there's a lot of systems that go into this, but is there any kind of keystone, foundational institution, like meetings, certain meetings, or processes and things that really are at the root of pulling this off well?
We're really big on planning. I think planning is really key to making everything work. And from those plannings, I think we are able to develop KPIs. And KPI is another system that we think is just necessary, especially once you've scaled or decided to scale up.
The key performance indicators.
Yes, that's right. The key performance indicators. And what we do is we go from really small indicators, from lower level to management level, and then we have the global key KPIs. That, I think, really is what has helped us a lot. And from the beginning, how disciplined you are in maintaining sort of that rhythm in managing that way, I think it's definitely has helped us.
With the KPIs, you have to set those indicators based on a particular standard. So it's kind of back to the first question about, when you're first starting, you have to go by this internal metric that without experience, you had to make gut level decisions. Well, now with all this experience, you've got key performance indicators. So it's a very formal metric that you're using along with the gut level stuff. How do you maintain a sort of that gut level intuitive approach to making sure that things are the right fit, the culture is right, while using a KPI, which can sometimes just be very dry, numbers based only, and not really a cultural tool, more of a financial tool? How do you kind of balance those two?
We always try to have regular meetings as often as possible within our management. So we have this weekly quick catch-up meetings where all of us kind of tell the rest of the team what we're doing and what challenges we are facing. Sort of like a safe space where you can just tell everyone what you're facing right now. That's very effective. Apart from keeping the KPIs, we get to brainstorm with each other, and we get to solve the challenges together as well, which is I think that's quite effective in still instilling our values, conveying the gut feelings in the management.
I think we're well aware that we're in sort of the lifestyle coffee shop business. which has to be kind of adaptive. Food and beverage, we really have to move quickly. And we were well aware of that. But at the same time, we knew that we had to have some sense of professionalism. So I think that's where the KPI plays a role. Of course, our KPI wouldn't be as rigid as you would imagine a bank would have or a big corporation would have. But it really does help us just stay in line in what we want to achieve and keep some sort of consistency and progress, of course. We try to still have fun with innovation. So a lot of our KPI is more on innovation, on improvement of the company, and how to operate things more efficiently and effectively.
I like that awareness is still there, and there's those meetings, especially keeping the relationships, just like the relationships with farmers, like the relationships with the staff and the managers, et cetera, is so important, especially as you expand. I mean, just the need for those types of channels of communication just gets greater and greater. Because you're just not next to people all the time like you were in the first store. And it's almost like the systems are trying to, in a sense, recreate that kind of closeness with ownership in the form of like, this is a representation of the owners in the form of the values. And just, once you get out to be an international brand, of course, you're not going to be like having face-to-face meetings with every single person. So the question now is about Japan. So like, this is an opportunity that's pretty awesome. First step out of your home country. And did that present any pretty unique challenges? And how did your systems and processes and culture fare in transferring from Indonesia to Japan?
It's a challenge that we are still facing up until today, I would say. Especially the language barrier and difference in work culture. Two of the factors that of the challenges that we're facing today with Japan outlet. However, we're still keeping the system that we have here in Indonesia and apply that to Japan operation. Right now, we only have one outlet, so I would say it's not that hard to maintain communication with the team over there in Japan. It's the same system. Basically, we have KPIs and we have regular meetings. We manage the social media together. Indonesian team and Japanese team, we manage most of the social media together. That's one way of communicating to the customers directly. But yeah, I would say a language barrier and cultural differences are two factors that are challenging.
And to add to that, I think it's the pandemic.
True.
That just makes the job so much easier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
A little fun fact: we haven't been to the Tokyo outlet up until now. Yes.
Yeah, due to travel restrictions. I mean, Japan hasn't really opened up for international travels. Even workers, yeah. They're really closing up. So we haven't been there. So everything is done virtually.
Oh man, that is a challenge. And it does seem, from what I've seen in research, it does seem like it's being received pretty well.
Yeah, we're quite surprised too. I mean, we did our research. We knew the market is there, the location that we wanted, because we happened to go to Japan a lot prior to opening a shop there, and we really loved the city of Tokyo. So we knew where we wanted. We knew the market, but we didn't expect the reception to be this big, especially with the pandemic. So yeah, we're grateful. We got a lot of exposure from medias as well, from the coffee scene as well, especially lately with the Indonesian beans. We have a lot of plans for growth there, but I guess the number one plan for us is to go there.
Yeah, to get there.
Yeah. To get there.
First to actually get there.
Yeah. So the innovation part of what you've been talking about, you've mentioned it a few times with products, and you call yourself a lifestyle brand, and I think even if you don't call yourself a lifestyle brand and you're an independent coffee shop, your customers probably think of you as a lifestyle brand. You know, just the way that people think about coffee and how it fits in their lives, but you've really embraced that, and your innovation team is coming up with products, et cetera. And I mean, I know that you just recently came out with a collaboration for canned coffee. I think maybe it was cold brew. Tell us more about the products development and how that factors into, you know, making a distinction between yourselves and other brands in the market you're going for with that.
With a canned coffee, we created our RTDs, which is ready to drinks products, back in 2018. That's when the online transportation called Gojek or Grab.
It's like the Uber Eats.
It's like the Uber Eats in America, in the States. They started to gain popularity in 2017, 2016. And that's when we came up with the idea of canned coffee. We were amongst the first, the pioneer to have coffee in canned. And the hype was really big back in 2018. We got a lot of our sales were it boosted our sales greatly. And I guess that's one of the innovation that responded to the context at that time, that this Gojek, this online transportation gained its popularity, and it was right about it was the right time to develop ready to drink products. That's one of the example of the innovations that we do.
We have done a lot of variations for our canned products for RTD. One of the ones that we like is the Assam cold brew. Assam is actually tamarind, so it's also a means for us to explore flavors as well, explore the market, as Putri said, also to capitalize on the online platform that's really growing here in Indonesia. I think in the future we're really thinking about exploring further when it comes to canned drinks. We want to provide the best coffee, but in a convenient way. Yeah, in Indonesia, that was rather new at that time, and we're going to continue on doing that.
Well, it's a great time to do it, especially right before the pandemic, when you know, things like that probably were pretty helpful.
Yeah, that really helped us a lot go through the pandemic, and we're also thinking about launching that in Japan sometime soon. So yeah, hopefully that goes to plan.
Just talking about convenience products can sometimes, you know, elicit in people's minds this like, but we're specialty coffee. And I think now today there's less people that think about that now that they're exploring specialty instant coffee, pods, everything that we can think of. And at the root of that, I think for the most conscientious people, you both being in the midst of that, is another outlet for coffee to be consumed, means another outlet that will help you buy more coffee from those people you have relationships with on the farm.
Yeah, for sure. And I think having all these different variation or byproducts of coffee, I think really help sort of expose people of Indonesia to coffee also. Indonesia typically are tea drinkers or instant coffee drinkers. But you know, with all these different coffee shops now coming up with, like as you said, pods, instant coffee, and canned RTDs, it really helps people enjoy coffee in a more friendlier way, I guess, so to speak, and that kind of shapes their lifestyle and their culture. And hopefully in the future, it will generate more demand for the coffee beans.
You have a customer who is exposed for the first time to a world of coffee that you're steeped in, pardon the pun, but the journey of a customer can sometimes be an arc of, you know, first not being very open and receptive to becoming more receptive and changing their orders. And I'm just curious here real quick, if you have that experience with customers in your shops in Jakarta where people come in a little bit timid, a little bit, not knowing what to order, but then over the years you see them really develop their taste or develop their palate, et cetera.
Yeah, we get to see that transformation in the market, I guess. In the very beginning, customers were attracted to the hype. At the time when we opened our first shop in 2016, Jakarta was lacking in hangout space at that time. People were attracted by the hype initially, like, oh, what's this new place opening up? And then they were probably also attracted by the visuals, or this is something new. Specialty coffees are popping up everywhere with like different kind of interior designs, for example, or like different packaging and all that. But then people started to get accustomed to specialty coffee. With those specialty cafes popping up around the neighborhood, they started to shift their taste from only enjoying lattes and cappuccino or any other milk-based espresso milk to getting curious about single origins and different brewing methods. And they started to get curious about how physics tea is different from AeroPress, and how do I get to homebrew the coffee, etc. Today, the majority of our customers are still milk-based espresso drinkers, I think, but I guess now they are more aware about what they drink, the origins, even the flavor notes. I think they're more aware now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the beginning when we first opened, I used to stand in the cashier a lot, and a lot of the customers would come over and then they would ask, "Can I have whipped cream on my coffee?" Or they would ask things like, what sort of syrups do you have? And at that time we didn't serve any of that. I mean, we didn't have any syrups, and we didn't have whipped cream on our coffee, and nothing wrong with that. But that time we decided we wanted to move away from that sort of just for our business. But yeah, over time, I think you can see that now 6 years on, people are not asking that anymore. And like Putri said, now they're more curious about the origins of the coffee, and how it's brewed and the taste that comes out of the coffee itself.
It's everyone's got a different journey, and I like, Putri, what you said. They're more conscientious because they could be latte drinkers forever. That's great, as long as they're drinking it in a way that's like, we're drinking this because we love it, not because we're afraid of other drinks or we're trying to avoid what we think is a bad drink.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, I wanted to kind of ask perhaps an unfair question. What do you think has been the key to your success looking back? And I'm guessing there's a few things, but what do you attribute your success so far to? And as a follow-up to that, how would you advise, like what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who want to do something similar to what you've done, especially in a producing country?
I guess we started right about the time the third wave coffee entered Indonesia, so it wasn't very difficult to get customers in the beginning. However, to survive business is a bit more challenging for us. So we figured that innovation is the keystone to keep the business running, especially amidst the competition that are as I said, keep popping up every day. Yeah, you got to think of ways of how the customer would coming back instead of going to other establishment. I guess discover new coffee beans, discover new farmers, and introduce new products, and also, I guess, be big on research and development. Visuals are also important. I think that's what binds everything together, I guess. As you know, we are now presented with like limitless options of new products every day. So I guess visuals is what attract people first to your product. So it's very important. Part of our success is also collaborations with other people, other coffee people, as well as communities like outside of coffee. Like we did lots of collaboration with the art communities. We did exhibitions with painters, with local painters, as well as like workshops in our space as well. So I guess collaboration and embracing community is also one of keystone to our success.
Regarding the advice for people that want to open up a shop, especially for producing countries, I think from the very beginning, we've committed to only serve Indonesian coffee. For us, I think we really wanted to prove that Indonesian coffee is good enough. I think despite the negative bias Indonesian coffee might have, that's what we really wanted to do and tell stories about people. We believe from the start that it's more interesting to have beans with a story. So I guess an advice would be, number one, build relationships. That's one advantage that we have over non-producing countries. Without the language barrier, and we have the ability to know the landscape, it's really crucial to build a long-term and mutually beneficial relationship. So that's an advantage. Try to exploit that, share and give feedback regularly, and find the coffee that matches your values and cause, because that would make your journey so much better. In terms of selling, like I said, communicate the stories and the selling points for the product, and share not only the coffee, but the culture that comes along with it. I think that's also very important.
Wow. And you all have demonstrated all of that really well with what you're doing. And I really appreciate you coming on the show to talk about this. It's great.
Thank you.
You weathered a thunderstorm to be here. Yeah, we were blessed with the rain and blessed with your presence for sure. So how can we stay in touch with you both and what you're doing over there at Kopikalyan?
Oh, you can reach us through our social media at Kopikalyan and at Kopikalyan Japan, or you can email us. My address is Putri, Putri at kalyan.id.
And Iman at kalyan.id.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Putri, Iman. It was really awesome to talk to you.
Chris.
Thank you for having us.
Well, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed that conversation. It's really great to see a business like this growing, especially when they remain true to their values all along the way in the operations of their business and what the business does to support the farming families of Indonesia. It's really exciting to see the continual expansion of successful roasting and cafe operations in producing countries, exclusively featuring that country's coffee, and especially to see the expansion of their concept out to Tokyo and who knows where else Kopikalyan will be in the future. So a big thank you to Iman and Putri for being on the show. Of course, you can go find out all the information about what they're doing at Kopikalyan. You can just go to their website, kopikalyan.com. And also don't forget to follow them on Instagram at Kopikalyan. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback for me about this episode or any other episode of Keys to the Shop, feel free to reach out, please. Chris@keystotheshop.com is the email, and that's also the email to use when you want to reach out about Keys to the Shop consulting. Chris@keystotheshop.com. And with that is the end of our episode today. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I really appreciate you subscribing to the show, sharing these episodes, and as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.